Hey there. Today I get to have my August tier list critiqued and probably torn apart by two of the best Marvel Crisis Protocol players in the world. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. So, in today's video, I get to sit down with Sploosh and Pat, the winners of the first and second Marvel Crisis Protocol Tabletop League seasons, respectively, and let them have a look at the general tier list I made, and then let them hone it down to a much more competitive tier list. So first things first, if you are just wanting to enjoy a more casual setting and game with Marvel Crisis Protocol, this video may not appeal to you, as naturally the conversation is going to be geared to a more competitive roster building and playstyle with the guests I have today. However, you can always pick up a tip or two from listening to some of the best players of the game and their thought process if you're wanting to improve yourself. As well, I have no doubt that my very general rankings won't hold up to a more competitive eye. So if nothing else, you can take bets on how many characters I placed correctly or more than likely incorrectly. Now, one of the main reasons my first roster from this month will probably be torn up a decent bit is that I had not established any real guidelines or ideas of what each tier represented in the game. So to make the discussion easier for Sploosh and Pat, I've defined the S tier as the characters that can fit into any roster or affiliation, and A means that they can easily see play outside of their affiliation, but not necessarily everywhere. B mostly sees play in their affiliation, but can also see some play outside of their affiliation. C is only sees play in their affiliation or has a very limited role. And D, probably not worth making it into any roster at the moment. Most of the leaders did also have some sort of special consideration for what they are able to do in the game when ranking them amongst the different tiers. Before we get into that, I want to thank both Sploosh and Pat for taking the time to sit down and have a fun discussion about the game we all enjoy. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that if you want to hear more of these two's insights on the game, you can. Pat is a part of the Across the Bifrost podcast that is about 1 year old, since they have been covering the game since its announcement pretty much, and Sploosh on the other end has joined Dizzard and Jacob Collins to form the Danger Room podcast, and I think they're just on their second or third episode now. As well, I want to thank all of the patrons who've joined the Guild Hall. I really appreciate the support shown to me and the channel as it continues to grow, and hopefully some new equipment will not be too far off. If you want to check out either of the podcasts or the Patreon page, I have links for them all down in the description below. And with that, let's tear into my tier list. All right, guys, so here we are with Pat and Sploosh, the top two players in the world at the moment, at least. I'm going to try to dethrone at least one of them from their titles in this upcoming season. But before that, this is my previous tier list, and I'm ready for them to tear it apart. We're going to start from the top, moving down with the new kind of definitions that I put in place. And so with that in mind, what do you guys think about Shuri? Does she deserve to stay at that S tier, or does she need to drop a little bit?
I don't know who's starting. I'll let the champion go first.
Okay. I think Shuri does deserve to be in this spot. I think Shuri's effects are incredibly powerful and also really unique. And it's powerful effects that any affiliation can take advantage of. So just by virtue of her uniqueness, I would keep her in S tier because she's the only person that does that job.
And that job being rerolls and pushing people at range 5.
Right. Two incredibly powerful things that no one else can do nearly as well as her.
Cool. I at least got one correct then. From there, what about Wong? Now, granted, this is still a little bit of speculation. He's not out yet. But do you think he's going to be as universally good as Shuri is amongst the different affiliations, or is he going to be a little bit more restricted?
I think he'll be an A. I originally thought S, and I think he actually is very similar to Shuri in like what we just described. However, kind of soul searching and letting things simmer or whatnot, talking to other people and watching people play a lot of Doctor Strange. I'm starting to cool off on him a little bit. I do think there's a few things that he brings to the game that we haven't seen yet. He's basically like free R&D on turn 1, which is massive. And like for example, in Cabal, a turn one Cosmic Invigorate could be expected, especially on like Gamma Wave, and that's huge. I think if anyone hasn't seen Pat and I play against each other, I was playing a two coster, and if I had Wong and I had Cosmic and he had priority, I would have killed his Thor, and then his Thor would have died on turn two, completely removed from the game. Instead, his Thor decided to obliterate me on turn three. So that's huge. And that's something that doesn't exist yet, right? So that alone gives me like definite pause. And I think he also it's one of those characters that would be like a pillar of the game going forward, where game designers constantly have to think about him for everything they make forever. And we as players get to think about him for everything that comes out. And maybe that moment comes where I want turn one lethal protector. I want whatever comes to your mind. Actually, great example. I might have been you actually, Nate, the turn one Hawkeye, where you jump out, grab the hammer, and then jump back, or you can move back. So you with Avengers, you can do it because it costs one, and then you get another power from R&D, and then you can grab an object. So you can go up, grab it, and then jump back into safety. So like that gives us lots of creativity going forward. So the problem with S tier is I think he has to prove himself. Maybe it's not there yet, and I don't know. Like you have to have a reason you're bringing him. You just don't shove him in. That's what I've learned from this time since we were spoiled on him. I originally was just like, oh, I'm playing him with everything. This is amazing. And now I'm like, well, why am I bringing him again? Because he dies real fast. He doesn't have any range attack, which is super relevant. You think of all the times that even Black Widow or Okoye will just pop off and hit someone. I had Black Widow like one-shot my Hawkeye. Okoye. I was playing a game, and Okoye just like, move, shoot. Boom, 4 damage. Flipped my Hawkeye. And I was like, well, that just happened. And that's not happening with Wong. So
that's fair. Pat, what about you?
I definitely agree. So I think I define Shuri as being S tier because she has unique support that no one else has, and Wong also has unique support. But I agree with Sploosh that I think his power level is just lower. So even though his effects are incredibly compelling, they're not necessarily as efficient as Shuri to just slot into any team. Like he said, you need to have a specific plan in mind for them. And it's really interesting to be able to stack like Avengers leadership plus Wong plus advanced R&D and start to make crazy combos. But the fact that those options already exist mean he's not quite as irreplaceable as someone like Shuri. And maybe you would rather give up a tactics card slot to play advanced R&D to make your plan work rather than play 2 threat and take Wong. So I think he's good, but I agree he's not S tier.
Cool. So I think you guys do agree that he should probably at least be A tier. So we will move him down there. And then we have quite a few of the leaders, and the leaders kind of need to fit outside the definition of these tiers because of how selective they would be. A lot of them would end up probably in the C and B tiers. But with that, Captain America, one of the ones that people have mostly disagreed with me on about him being an A tier. Where would you guys slot him in?
If he wasn't the Avengers leader, I would have him in C tier. But he has an incredible leadership, and he's necessary to play that affiliation. And I think that does bump him up. Like, he does see play, right? I would put him in B. I don't think he's an A. I think as a character, he's not that compelling.
That's fair. Sploosh?
I agree with that. Not because of what his affiliation is right now. I think I actually listened to Pat's recent podcast. He mentioned that he believes that Cabal, Asgard, and Wakanda are like kind of the top tier. And I feel like a nod to that is Cap being B because he's not the A. And that's the reason. And if that changes in the future, so be it. This is a bubble and it will change tomorrow maybe. But for currently the moment, that's how I see it as well. I do think that Cap has a little new life with the possibility of Thanos, but it's yet to be proven that that's an A-tier plan. I think it's just really fun.
Yeah, agree. Yep. I also want to call out that there was a time where I rated Captain America as the best character in the game.
Oh, wow.
And it just depends a lot about what else is being played, right? And that was a time when Mystic Attacks didn't exist. Functionally unkillable, right? And if Mystic attacks for whatever reason become less popular, then his stock will go up, or if Bodyguard becomes more useful. So I think he has the potential to go up, like Sploosh said. But yeah, right now I put him at B.
Yep. And also the Avengers is the roster that's growing the most, always seeing characters added into, so there's definitely room for him to grow back into A. And I think I agree with you guys after a little bit more. I'm an Avengers player. He's near and dear to my heart. But I guess Red Skull's a little bit more relevant to you guys to a degree. Does he get to stay up here in the A tier?
It's difficult. What do you think, Sploosh?
Oh, man. I just remember when I was a newbie, I thought I hated Red Skull, and I was like, I can't wait to play without him. And then I feel like he taught me lessons by playing him so much that you learn to appreciate him in unique ways. And as a leader, he's A tier for sure. I just don't see you ever playing him outside of affiliation. That's the problem. If he costs 3, of course. Yeah, well, now we're talking. But he doesn't. So you're paying for the leadership. You want the leadership. And actually, I think Pat said something about if you're going to bring Modok in Cabal in Red Skull, it's like, why aren't you playing Cabal at that point? Mm-hmm. Like, because they're kind of a partnership, but it's almost like Batman and Robin, really, with these two.
Yeah, it's awkward because Red Skull has incredible support for one model, right? So he needs to be supporting a really powerful model that benefits him, and then he's worth his cost. But yeah, because right now the best models to support him is Modok, and they're both Cabal. You only really see him in Cabal. That could change, right? If you imagine the problem in the game is another affiliation, maybe you take Red Skull as your unaffiliated choice to support that.
Yeah, maybe Apocalypse or what's the name of that? The guy with the mask from like Fantastic Four and stuff, Doctor Doom. Like maybe there's this like super sweet mini, and you just need someone to cart him around a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep. Magneto also might be a great candidate. He's got that large base to take advantage of the teleport, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So does this mean we're knocking him down to B with Cap, or is he still going to stay in A?
I love Red Skull, but if I'm being honest, he's a B, right? He's a character that's not played except when he's the leader.
Sure.
All right. And then you guys talked about the A tier a little bit there with Black Panther and Thor. Do these guys get to deserve to stay in A because they're multi-affiliation, or just because they're really good characters on their own?
So my opinion is both of these guys are two of the best characters in the game, regardless of their leadership, right? They're two characters that you see in rosters, especially Thor. We've seen how dominant Thor has been in the TTS League in terms of popularity, and Black Panther is also really popular. I think these are both incredible picks, ignoring the leadership, and then the leadership just makes them more popular on top of that. So I would give them both solid A's. You can make an argument that Thor is S tier because he's so popular and so powerful, and he can roll well at any affiliation.
Well, I mean, if we're kind of, are we talking about them both? I definitely think they're A tier, not S tier. I think both of them have room for growth because they don't have that many characters with their affiliation right now. And we know, for example, Thor is going to get some new friends. So both of them could actually, they get better, at least in their affiliation. But outside of their affiliation, I think Thor's goes down a little bit because now you have Corvus and the Reality Gem, and you got like Doctor Strange showing up, and like there's who knows what else is coming that's going to be this big guy. I mean, maybe Ghost Walker or Ghost Rider or whatever. But I think like me personally, I'll take Modok over Thor any day of the week. And I mean, I don't want to cheat on the Modok conversation, but I would leave Thor at A. I do think Thor is a pillar of the game, just like Shuri is. And I think if you see someone like has in their 10 a Thor, you're thinking immediately like, what board edge am I going to pick? Where's the size 4 thing I need to hide from, right? Mm-hmm. So he's definitely really good,
That's fair. All right. So keeping them at A seems a decent consensus then?
Yeah. Cool. Fair enough. I'll settle for A. Still think Thor could be an S, but I'm not 100% on it, so I'll defer to Sploosh.
We'll say A+ for Thor then.
Well, if everyone rolls like Pat, Thor is S tier times 2. But everyone else that didn't roll like Pat, they had a rougher day.
All right. So with those two out of the way, we're done with at least most of the leaders, and we have Modok. Uh, Now, this is one that I think might get bumped up by you two because you were both that good of players. You know how to position, you know how to take advantage of them most. I ended up saying in the video that he could be S tier in the hands of players like you all, but at the end of the day, I think majority of the players aren't quite at that level, and so I left him in A. So tell me how wrong I am.
I was thinking about Modok. I always think about Modok. He's my guy. But this game is about solving puzzles, and Modok solves a lot of puzzles, like probably more than anyone else in the game. Like the fact that he advances instead of pushes is huge. The fact that he has the mental mystic attack is huge. Uh, he can throw things, which sometimes I just throw things so people can't throw them at me because Modok hates when people throw things at him. I could go on and on. Like Modok is just amazing. He should be S tier. I understand the idea of him being difficult to play, but we're playing the game on hard mode or easy mode. However that works. At the end of the day, if you can accomplish what you're trying to do, that's where he should be rated. I also think that he's very strong in other affiliations. If you look at the top 4 of the last league, he made it in every roster, and that was including like Asgardians and Wakandans. And I think he's an excellent web warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I mean, I don't even know where it stops. I mean, does Doctor Strange bring him? Maybe, I don't know. But his aim lackey card is absolutely amazing. I love that card. It's my favorite card in the entire game. I'm not joking. So, I mean, he brings that card too. Did I miss anything? I mean, he just covers all the bases.
Yeah, and I think you've covered really well what he does, but I think it's worth just mentioning his raw stats are also just really high, right? He's just really hard to kill. He just more damage than pretty much any other character because of the fact that he can convert all his power into rerolls on his attacks. So he's got all this versatility and raw power. And for me, he's just right now he's the most powerful character in the game. He gets that crown.
You actually bring up a great point. I think that a lot of this game is being able to take a hit. And no one can take a hit like Modok. So like you get in those situations where, someone's gonna die, kind of thing. Like there's someone on the left that might die, and there's someone on the right that might die, and you're maybe you're waiting for your opponent because you don't have initiative, and you're letting them decide. So it's like, okay, they're gonna kill that guy or they're gonna kill that guy, but then I'm gonna respond and I'm gonna kill the other guy. With Modok, it doesn't work that way sometimes. Sometimes it's like you can hit him, it's fine. He'll probably live, though. He might live at 2 health, but he'll live. And how many other characters can do that?
Exactly.
I didn't even Thor. I had my Zemo in the tournament take out a full 8 health Thor, just Zemo. And I don't feel like I rolled crazy. Zemo had a lot of power. But, if it was Modok, he might have lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so Modok will get bumped up to that S tier, as I thought you guys might push him up there. So then we have a couple of the other leaders. We just had Miles release I guess 2 Fridays ago, by the time this video is out, and Doctor Strange, who is coming out shortly. Let's talk about Miles first. Do you think he is going to be a good enough of a leader to stay in the A tier?
It's early days with these new characters, hard to say. I've been playing a lot of Web Warriors the last week, and I really, really like Miles. I don't think he's the best affiliated Web Warrior. I rank Gwen and Venom above him, personally. And I think he's very good. I'm not sure if he is an A yet. Maybe, but I'm not convinced. He may be a B.
Okay,
so possibly dropping down. Sploosh, where do you sit with him?
I've also played a lot of Web Warriors, and I kind of agree that, like, honestly, like, he ends up kind of being, like, in my objective carrier for a while, and he's extremely slow at that. And then the unknown is playing him in other affiliations. I know a lot of people talk about it, and, like, the idea of Cabal, and he, like, jumps and gets, like, a power off that hit he gets, which feeds him into more stuff. I'm not convinced, to be honest. I personally, maybe it's because I'm skittish, but I wouldn't think to add him in Cabal. It doesn't jump out as me as like, that's the guy. And so then I just don't know where else he fits. And so I think he might just be a leader. I'm totally fine with that. Like all the leaders other than Thor and Black Panther, I feel like I'm totally happy just playing them in their affiliation. It's what makes them unique, you know. So I'm not trying to downplay it, but maybe he's a B just because I'm looking at Thor and Panther, who are worthy of being there just on their own merits. And I don't know that Miles is there on his own merits. I think he's a great leader, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely agree. Just like Red Skull and Cap, right? Their leadership's incredible.
Yeah.
Cool. We will throw him down in the B then. And again, as hopefully we maybe get characters like Black Cat, Agent Venom, and who else? Who knows who else can be joining the Webheads? Just get better over time, or maybe just find an opening for him later. Now let's talk about Doctor Strange, another 5-threat leader coming into the game who plays very differently from all of the other 5-threat characters that we have so far.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about Doctor Strange. I think he's too new for me to have an informed opinion. But my initial take is he's a really good support character, but he's very expensive, and he doesn't do a lot personally. He affects a bubble on the table, and his effect in that bubble is superb. But outside of it, your characters are on their own, and you're draining threat level by having him somewhere on the table, not doing that much kind of work, if you know what I mean. So I think he's really good, but I don't know how good he is. Maybe it's partly because he's so unique, but because he's expensive and he doesn't kill people, I'm not sure he's an A. Like, I need my 5-threat investment to get me 5-threat on the table, right? He can't just be tough and taking points, because I can use crossbones for that, and no one wants crossbones. So he needs to be doing more, and I don't know if he does consistently.
I have to agree. I think people might attack us with their pitchforks if we put him at B right now. I don't know, though. I really don't. I wish I knew. I've watched a lot of games with him, and I love the people that have been streaming his games, and he feels good. But I don't know. He can move people, right? He's not a killer, and he's barely like control piece either. Like, he's got the cool like get your activation thing, but he doesn't like reliably like just move someone off a point like Shuri or Panther. And so like
he's got his push right on his free attack.
But it's a wild, isn't it?
No, it's if damage
is it take damage?
And it's a push in any direction, which is really nice.
No, that's really it is advance, I think, too, not a push. I believe.
No, it's a push, but in any direction. So
is it a push?
Pretty good control.
Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. See how new I am to him, but I don't know. He's such an unknown. I mean, it's exciting to have characters like this that you don't know yet, but.
Yeah, we just don't know about him. Maybe he's an, but hard to say right now.
All right, so we'll leave him there just because we don't want pitchforks getting tossed to you guys anytime soon.
Safer.
So we'll keep him there. Definitely look forward to see how he and the defenders evolve, especially as we have so many defenders that we don't know that he will play with yet. So it is really hard to judge him, I think. All right, so I think we only have one leader left, and let's go ahead and move down to him just so we can have them all done. Well, I guess we also have Thanos. So, and Green Goblin, dadgum, there's just so many.
There's so many characters.
So let's move through the rest of the leaders. That way we can get them knocked out. Yes or no, Star-Lord at B. Does he, now that we've set the precedent of Cap and Red Skull and what they bring, does Star-Lord need to even go down to C?
C. I mean, if I'm reading your description, it's a C, right? Only affiliation. I mean, who takes him out of affiliation?
And it's not because he's bad, but he just does nothing unique, right? And there's so many characters to choose from. It's rare that you ever say, I want my out of affiliation character to just do damage.
You have Rocket and Hawkeye, right?
I was about to say, I think if Hawkeye wasn't out, then maybe he's a better 3-threat character to fill that kind of blaster role. But once Hawkeye came out, like, Hawkeye's the best there is at that, so why not just take Hawkeye?
Right.
All right, so we will bump Star-Lord down to C. Not that he's bad. Him with the power gem is still redonkulous and does good things for the Guardians. What about Thanos? Definitely a character that has impacted the game a lot, but does he need to be below or higher than he currently sits at B?
I'm fine with B because I've seen some decent lists with Avengers. He's just like, he's faking us all out by pretending to be a Black Order leader. his true heart is being Cap's best friend.
I agree. I think he's fine at B because he's so unique and different that you can always consider including him in a roster for any affiliation just to make your roster do something so unusual.
Mhm.
I don't think you'll do that often, but that's fine, right? There's so many characters in the game. They can't all be taken in every roster.
Yeah,
And he's okay in Black Order on like Gamma Wave, right? Or Gamma
Yeah.
Shelter or whatever it's called. But
And Deadly Meteors, he can be pretty good.
Yep.
yeah, I don't. Corvus, Proxima, and him are a decent team for a very unique situation. It's just not the be all catch all of the other guys.
Yeah, I've kind of phrased it that he's the offensive version of Doctor Strange, where Doctor Strange is helping defend his allies and healing them. Thanos is out there giving damage boosts and encouraging his team to just push that damage.
His repositioning is insane, and if you're not careful, he can move you off like a serum all the way back to like the other side of your map or whatever. What is it, Mind Gem?
Mhm.
That's brutal. You got if the first time that happens to you, you're like, whoa, how did I get over here?
Yeah. Or even worse, when he does the reverse and pulls you all the way into Corvus Glaive, right?
Yeah.
He can get within the range 4 band of a target, and with Mind Gem, he can move them literally touching his base, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. He brings you to him, like he sucks you in. I had my Miles with stealth, and it didn't matter. Miles was coming right in, so that's scary.
Yeah. So he's very cool, but he's just too expensive to see ubiquitous, right? I think B is the right spot for him.
Cool. And then the final leader, for now at least, Green Goblin. Again, one that has only been out for a couple of weeks at this point. Where do you guys see him falling as far as the tier goes?
It's possible C.
Yeah, it is. I'm not high on him right now. I think he's got 2 big problems. One is power generation.
Mhm.
And the fact that his most powerful side is his day side, which means you don't get it at the start of the game and you may never get it at all. So if you look at his 2 halves of his character, he's a really good character. The problem is that you may never see that second half, which is the more powerful half.
Yeah, I think people are too harsh on his front side. I think in his affiliation, he was designed correctly. In fact, in the video that AMG had, they talked about him and how they overtuned him for in affiliation. They consider him like more than a 4 value, but out of affiliation, they consider him more like fair 4. And that's kind of what you want to hear. I actually think Miles is very similar in that way. I think Miles is an excellent 3 cost in affiliation. It's when you pull him out that he kind of loses the point value, but I think that's by design. And they even had basically flat out said it in their game design video, which I found interesting. Because like with his 4 dice attack without rerolling their dice, it's not good. But if you add in that extra, you lose a block, it's kind of like a little bit like Pierce. It's, and you get that Incinerate. It's brutal. I don't even want to see Incinerate on Modok ever. So yeah, but the problem for him is his affiliation needs more characters, in my opinion. And then also, if you're going to play him out of affiliation, well, then maybe you just find a better 4-cost character, and by design, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for the fact he's got a good unaffiliated tactics card with Doc Ock, that he's supposed to be flyer for drop off. Like, I think there are reasons why you might take him outside of affiliation that are fairly unique to him. But I agree, he's maybe a B, maybe a C.
Okay, so consensus then, I'm going to go ahead and drop him down to a C. And again, it does feel like one of those characters that once we see what the rest of the affiliation does, because there are quite a few characters on the affiliation card he came with, just we don't know the rules for them yet. We've got Kingpin coming soon to help those woes, though.
And their affiliation power is really good. So, I mean, keep your eyes on them.
All right, so with that, we can get to just our, I say average Joe, but the rest of the characters in the game. And up here at A, I have Vision. What do you guys think about that? Is he able to be plopped into pretty much most affiliations? Not all of them necessarily, but pretty plug and play with him?
I don't think he goes in most. I think he's amazing in Wakanda and okay in Avengers. Possibly good in Spider Foes because he has extra power to spend for those rerolls. It's kind of similar to how Wakanda works. I look at him as a guy who has a lot of power, and he could use a little help on offense. And Wakanda, for example, gives him that help because he gets a reroll, and he has the power to spend on the reroll. And of course, the defensive part is good too. So I think he's an A, though. I think he's actually one of the best, if not the best, 4-cost character in the game.
I think he's in contention, yeah. He's just maybe the best all-rounder, right? He's just quite good at everything. Quite resilient, quite mobile, quite good range, quite good damage.
Yeah, he loves Wakanda. I don't know if anyone beats that.
I think well, your definition is really good, right? Which is he's good at generating power, so he loves leaderships that affect that. But now there's multiples, right? Because there's Wakanda, but there's also Spider Foes and there's Defenders. And his leadership, he's superb.
That's true. I forgot Defenders because they don't.
He's phenomenal with Defenders, right? The fact it applies to his whole beam to change the energy type and apply Hex to multiple people. So I think at this point it's fair to say that he's a solid A.
Yeah.
Yep. Because then Cabal, he's able to get multiple power off of each of the beam attack hits. Avengers, he's got that reactive ability, and then he makes a size 3 throw for 1 power. He seems pretty nice everywhere.
Just never bad, right?
Having him as the character you look for in an out of affiliation is an incredible compliment, because that means he's competing with every single character, and we're looking at him as one of the top. So it's very good.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Vision staying at A. What about Hawkeye? A little bit more of a recent addition.
So I think we should try and keep our answers a little bit shorter, because otherwise we're going to be here for hours.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I'll try and be quick. I'll say Hawkeye is specialized, but he's the best at what he does. He's really good on D scenarios. I give him an A.
I'll give him an A. Yeah, he's fine. I don't like him too much in most of what I've been playing, but that doesn't mean he's bad. It's just the roster. In Cabal, I think he's kind of redundant. And I mean, he's definitely very good in Avengers and a lot of stuff. So, yeah.
I think he has the same thing with Vision, which is he's great at generating power. So he's good with all the leaderships that let him spend power to do more damage.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Cool. And we'll just keep moving down the list then. Baron Zemo.
I like seeing him at A. I feel like he got dogs right after what is it? Asgard came out. All of a sudden he was horrible, and everyone's like, "Well, Zemo's old news." I was like, "What are you talking about? Zemo's still good." I even will admit that on season 1 of the tournament, I got a little obsessed with Killmonger, and then came back to Zemo and realized I was wrong. So seeing him at A is great. I don't think he's S.
Yeah, I agree. I went off him for a long time and came back to him. He's excellent. He's excellent in multiple affiliations. I think he's a strong A.
Fair enough, and that's why I put him there. What about Valkyrie, who plays similar to Zemo, but still a little bit different?
Same again, right? I think she's different enough to Zemo that some affiliations want one over the other. I think you're always going to see Zemo in a dedicated Cabal roster. You're always going to see Valkyrie in a dedicated Asgard roster, and then they might split over who else takes them, but you'll probably see one or the other in a lot of teams.
So I'm going to be bold here. I think that Valkyrie should be S. Mm-hmm. So when I'm playing Web Warriors, I found they have some weaknesses like power issues, and having 2 power on turn 1 with a 3-cost character is incredible. You can grab something and then do something the next turn, where Zemo grabs something and then does nothing the next turn typically. Also, there's these new objectives, the new Spider one, where you need 2 power maybe, because you got to pick up a citizen, then walk over and score some portal or whatever. That alone is crazy good. Or you could have her just double move throw someone into your team on turn 1, or throw them off of something. The fact that she's part of the Wakanda wave, the fact that I found her more and more critical in Cabal every day. I would always, the biggest fight for me was, who do I put in, Shuri or Valk? And I feel like I would change my mind every week. It's I couldn't decide. It's yeah, Shuri does this, but the map, and I can go on and on, but I do think that is there a roster where you're not considering Valkyrie?
That's fair. No, you're right. Let's put her to S. I agree.
All right, we will bump her up. And then I guess, since other than the leaders that have the possible gems, When we're looking at these characters, Loki, Corvus, Ronin, so on, that are able to take gems, make your case with or without the gems, I think it's fair to at least look at them with the possibility of having that gem as well. So with that, Loki, where does he need to land?
I like that you've got him at A. I think he's a very powerful character with a very unique effect. The effect is interesting in that it's incredible against some team compositions and not great against others. But I really like him as a piece that you can select to answer certain teams. I think he's very good against Avengers and Web Warriors in particular. And I've had quite a lot of success with him. So I would put him at A.
I'm fine with that. I personally don't like him, but I realize not everyone's me. So, and you also mentioned this in your podcast about how like he came to a lot of the tournament at the end, but then he ended up losing every time. And is that Loki's fault or not? Maybe we need more time to decide.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. And so keeping him at A then, what about Corvus? We talked about him a little bit, especially what he can mount up to with the reality gem. Does he get to stay at A or possibly move up?
It's interesting because I think Corvus without the reality gem is pretty mediocre, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's nothing special. It's not bad, but he's maybe a B or a C. With the reality gem, he is uniquely powerful, but the roster building cost of needing to include 2 character slots for your one character is quite high. If you're taking him with Proxima, that's another constraint. Mm-hmm. So he's incredibly good, but he's a little bit harder to fit into rosters than, say, Modok, who's another incredibly powerful 5, or Thor. So is his power level high enough that he's still worthy of being an S tier? What do you think, Sploosh?
I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to be playing him in Season 3. And I'm not playing Proxima, so we'll see if I'm right.
So do you have him as S or A?
It's definitely safe to say A. I think maybe he needs to earn his S, but I will say he's another pillar of the game, and you need to respect his existence. He can one-shot a Modok. He's built for it. So,
yeah.
I
think we'll leave him at A for the time being then. Definitely some potential growth for him, but I like what Pat said. Definitely there's a lot of weight that comes along with him. It makes him good, but for the same reason that I put Killmonger at B, because without Usurp, he's kind of downgraded a little bit. Corvus, without all of his toolkit, is not as strong. So then I've got 2 more characters in A, the first being Spider-Gwen, again, one of the newer characters. Does her unique abilities basically get to keep her in A, or does she need to be dropped down?
I'm looking at you, Pat, man. What do you think?
Okay, I love her. I think she's insane. She's been my favorite part about playing with Web Warriors. I think she's not even a particularly good Web Warrior. Like, she doesn't particularly benefit from leadership at all. And she's often not the one that you want to be playing the team tactics cards on. She's incredible in Avengers. She's really good in Cabal, especially if you're taking Modok and AIM lackeys. Mm-hmm. She's excellent in Wakanda Wave. Her support is unique and powerful. She's incredibly flexible. There's almost always, you can leave Gwen till your last activation, and you can almost always do something to get yourself 1 or 2 victory points, no matter where you are on the table or what the table state is. I think she's superb. I have her as maybe an S.
Wow.
It's a bit early to say, so I would be satisfied to leave her A.
Wow. I've only played her in Web Warriors, and I love playing her. She's entertaining. It's cool to hear Pat on this because I haven't tried her in anything else. I'm a kind of a coward maybe, but I could see it where if she could get the power for Wakanda rerolls, she feels like she wants to be a little bit more offensive with rerolls or something if someone can help her out, and that's always potentially down the road even better. I don't know I'd want to leave her at A until she proves she can hang in other affiliations. But if what Pat says is true and people pull it off, okay, I won't be surprised.
The thing that I love about her is the fact that she has an almost guaranteed range 4 pull, in the sense that she can move long, she can shoot at range 4, generate her second power, and then pull someone. And and it's it's towards her, right? So she shines in situations where Shuri doesn't necessarily. It's incredibly hard to protect against both of them with terrain and backstopping yourself. So I see her as being comparable to Shuri. She's not as good in that role, but she's so much more flexible when it comes to damage. But yeah, we can leave her at A for now and see where she goes.
All right, fair enough. And then I also have Ronin at A because, just speaking of kind of unique abilities and what he brings to the table with his arsenal of different attacks and different superpowers, it kind of felt silly to move him down to B because he can be so versatile. What do you guys think?
I'm not a Ronin fan, but again, it's kind of like Loki. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one because everyone else loves the character so much. I wanted to be a Ronin fan. He was one of the characters I bought immediately. I tried him out in Cabal, and I got really excited. And then every game I played, I was like, if he was just like other character Y, X, whatever, I feel like it would have been the same or better maybe. So then I kind of lost my excitement, and I just sort of moved him aside. I haven't even painted him yet.
Yeah, I'm also not a Ronin fan. He's often a character that I want to include in my roster, but I can never completely justify it. And I think the reason for that is he's a character that often ends up playing well on his own, where if he's just fighting on his own, he uses judgment, he uses accuser, and he usually comes out ahead. But he's quite an expensive character to fight in those one-on-one situations when he's alone, and he's still going to lose if he's ganged up on. And I don't know, I find he's fine, but I don't think he's quite strong enough in his role to be an A. I would put him at B.
All right, moving him down to B. Sploosh, are you okay with that, or do you want him to
Yeah,
go all the way down to B?
Well, no, I'm not going to argue off B. I mean, he's not bad. He's just, there's other characters. For me, he feels like Thor. Like when Thor goes off, Thor's horrifying, and I feel like he can go off with all the crazy wilds he has. He can be really good. And he's got that shock too, right? On the shot, that's really strong. It's just not A tier to me. Some people like to go in on all that randomness, and that's not me. I like to know what's going to happen before it happens. But I feel like with Ronin, it's like, let's see what happens.
All right, fair enough. So then for my previous video, I had put all of our two-threat characters, obviously except for Wong, at the B tier because I feel like they're each so specialized that they fit in where they need to fit in at. I guess I'll just cover all of them. Are there any that you guys think need to either be moved up or moved down from the B tier?
I really like your definition here of saying the most defining thing about the two-threat characters is the fact they're two-threat. And you probably want to have the option of a two-threat character, but you're probably not in many teams stacking a bunch of them or taking them specifically for what they do. You're taking them because they're cheap. Mm-hmm. So I quite like bunch them together for that reason, and I'm happy. I'm not going to argue with it. I think it's a fine place to put them.
Sploosh, is there any ones that you want to try to bump up or bump down?
It's tricky. I'm trying to look at your definitions of like played in their affiliation. Like, yeah, if you have a two threat in your affiliation, must be nice because I play Cabal and that doesn't happen. Yeah, sure, why not? Like, of course you jam the two threats. You can get the cool like Corvus in there or something, but. Man, I really liked Black Widow in season 2, but now going forward, I don't know if I'm super high on her as much. I'd have to get into a long discussion on why I think Black Widow is super sweet, but I don't know. Like, so B is like limited roles. Like, I guess it's unfair to say limited roles because I'll just say, for example, in Web Warriors, I really like Okoye, and you've got her at B. I used to think Rocket was the hotness, but what I've found is I kept tractor beaming people and they'd be like on top of Rocket. And Rocket's like, they're too close, get them back. This is horrifying, you know? And with Okoye, she's like, yeah, I'm okay over here. If you want to bring some people over, I can handle it, you know? And then, of course, she gets the rerolls. And so I don't know, like the two costers feel weird to me in B because like there's some ace two costers that I feel like, for example, Pat was playing Rocket in his list and it was kind of like a role player for certain scenarios and it was really key to have that two coster.
Yes, but the main thing there was the fact he was a two coster, right? Like if I'd had Okoye, maybe she would have been worse than that spot on the table, but I'd have had her instead just to make my list work.
Yeah, so it's awkward. They're like these role players. So then how do you rate the twos? Like I would rate Nebula below the other twos because she's not a go-to for me. But maybe I don't know, maybe in a Thanos list you need the Nebula. So it's tricky with them. They're so situational but really important when they're key for your list.
Yep.
And some of your lists just don't work without them. Like if I didn't have a Okoye or Black Widow, I would have a lot of trouble. I'd have to not play Modok, and that's just not happening. So, you
Yep.
know.
And I think each group kind of has, like, obviously, again, like you guys said, if they're in affiliation, man, that Nebula and Rocket feel great in Guardians, or Okoye and so on and so on. But I think the teams that don't have them kind of are like, cool, well, this one plays really well in Asgard, maybe. Or, like you said, Thanos really likes having Nebula because she's just her way to score victory points is through his leadership ability, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I don't know. So they're tricky for me to rate. They're like role players, and you really need them, but they're not. I don't know. They're not the stars of the show.
For that, right?
Yeah.
Cool. We will keep them at B then. So let's go into Captain Marvel, who I have at B, which is, again, that mostly sees play in their affiliation, but can also see play outside of.
So my opinion on Captain Marvel is I think she is a perfectly good character, but the biggest challenge she has is she has very specific competition for her inside her own affiliation with Vision, and I think that most of the time Vision is the better pick. Not always, but I think she probably would be a B if Vision didn't exist. But he often edges her out of rosters, and so I would put her to a C.
Yeah, I tried to make her work. I don't know. It's possible with Wong. I don't have to play R&D in Cabal, and that's kind of cool because you can get your turn 2 super mode online. So maybe that's worth exploring. It's just, I don't know. There's so many new shinies out there. I don't even know if it's worth all that effort. And if I did pull that off, it'd be like this very specific objective, and then it might be a very specific opponent. And so, that still might put her at C because she's situational even at best when she's being played. Where Vision, you don't think about it. You're just like, of course I play Vision. This is good.
Yep, I think kind of outside the Deadly Meteors, she's not going to trump Vision most of the time. But all right, so we will drop her down to C. Hurts me a little bit, but I like running them both.
Me too. She was the character I was most looking forward to playing in the core set. And with R&D and Cabal, she can go infinite, which is cool.
Oh, goodness, it's disgusting, yeah.
It's so much fun. I played it in like the last game of League because I had nothing to lose, and I'm like, I just got to play this girl, But it was fun. She did fine. But with Wong, maybe now I don't need to bring R&D. It costs too much now to bring R&D. There's too many other good cards. I'm not bringing R&D. So
all right. So with that, does Spider-Man need to also drop to C? This is Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Yes.
I wish he didn't, but yes.
Cool. We will drop him down there.
He should be happy not to be a D. Honestly,
yeah. I think him having the Web Warriors affiliation has helped him significantly. What about the other character who went without affiliation for a long time, Doc
Ock? So I think even Wakanda Wave has swapped Drax for him. I don't even know that you take him in Wakanda Wave anymore. So I don't know. He's like a C for me. He was always a great super average role player, even in the core set. Mm-hmm. But he's just I think even Drax does what he does better out of affiliation. So then he's just an affiliation character.
Yeah, he's flexible, but he's usually outshone by other threes for any particular role that you want, and especially Valkyrie being so good at dealing damage and throwing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would put him at C.
All right, we'll drop him down to C as well then, which leaves us into Killmonger, one of the killiest characters in the game. Does his expertise earn him a B, or does he only really see play in Wakanda and in Cabal?
I think he's just Wakanda nowadays.
I think you can take him in any affiliation if you're willing to take a Zerp, because then he's got a unique effect that's very compelling. But it's like I said about Corvus. Then you're paying 2 slots in your roster for one character. Is that worth it? Sometimes. I think he's pretty cool. I personally would leave him at B.
In Wakanda, he's Jacob said this that you want someone that has to go first, and you want characters to go last. Like you go last, so you can push them off, but you want someone to go first and be happy about it. Killmonger fills that role for Wakanda, but if I'm playing another affiliation, like I have fallen in love with Zemo, I don't see myself taking Zemo out. And the argument over Zemo on strictly just points is, if I have paid 3 points versus 4 points, I get the new shinies easier, more quickly. So by having Zemo, it lets me play like Corvus Glaive or whatever you want to play really badly. So Zemo's enabling me to play other cool characters, and Killmonger is not. And also, after playing season 2, and I think we played like 16 games, Zemo just was amazing. And I don't see myself going back to Killmonger anytime soon. And I don't know who else is going for him. That's the thing. Like, who else wants him so badly that they're going to put him in?
You're right. It's only Wakanda because of the affiliation. Because he compares, in terms of damage output, he's very similar to Zemo and Valkyrie. In terms of his role, he's similar, but he costs more. You're paying, in my opinion, you're paying a threat to get access to a Zerp. And if you don't want to take a Zerp, then you shouldn't be considering him.
And tactic cards are so tough to play. When the game first came out, I loved Usurp, and it felt easy to play. It's not easy with MedPack and all the fun stuff that we have now.
Yeah.
All right. So with that in mind, and him dropping down to C, what about Venom, who also relies a little bit on his lethal protector to really be considered viable?
I actually like him at B. I was considering playing him in Cabal this next season. If I was going to strictly play Cabal, I would play Venom. And the reason is he's kind of a counter to Corvus, which... not a counter like, oh, you play Venom and then Corvus is sad. But, like, if Modok doesn't want to die, he needs someone to help him out. And Venom's actually quite good at that. You can let him go after Modok, and Modok's got the big base, and then you can teleport up and use his lethal protector. He can take a hit really well with his 4 physical. And then if he gets hit really hard, he's happy to use that power to get his life back or whatever. So I think not even to mention, he's in 2 affiliations now, and he's great and definitely Web Warriors. His stock has gone way up. Like, his ability to not let people reroll. If you weren't playing against Wakanda, you used to not care. But now, there's tons of people doing crazy rerolls. So having him attack Spider-Man or Miles is fun times.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love him. I think B is good. He might even have an argument for A someday. I really like the way I've been playing. I love the guy. I'm so happy too, because I've owned him forever and he's been on my shelf. So,
Pat, what about you?
I adore Venom. He's already in my rosters. He's one of the unaffiliated characters that I took most often in Cabal. He's superb in Avengers. He's perfectly fine in Asgard and Wakanda. He's pretty good, I think, as a Web Warrior. And he's interesting, I think, in Defenders, although I've not played him yet in Defenders. I would rate him as an A, because I think he's incredibly good on his own merits, because he's got so much control and resilience, but also he's very good, as Spoosh said, against the big characters. Like Thor and
Corvus
have a hard time dealing with him, right? And he can control them. So he can pull them off objectives, get ahead on points while they struggle to kill him. And even Modok, who is not perfect for him, right? You can just run Venom base to base with Modok. And then Modok can't mind control him out of retaliation range. He's not going to one-shot his 7 hit points. And if he attacks Venom, Venom's going to hit him back with a 7 dice physical that heals himself. And actually, he can just be a huge pain for all of the biggest, nastiest characters in the game.
Yep.
The auto bleed, too, is great. It's fun, too, when you lethal protector and they've spent all their actions, and then you put the bleed on them, and then they're taking a damage instantly. I love that.
Yeah.
See, that's where Captain Marvel comes in and just nukes him, but that's just me. So what about Hela then? A very unique character with her soul mechanic and all of that. Does she mostly kind of stick to Asgard, or is she seen in enough other places to keep her in B?
I like her at B. I think she's really powerful and unique. She's always in consideration for being an Asgardian, for having 4 energy defense on the crises that matter, for having a good mystic attack. but she's often not the choice people make, right? So I think she's popular, but not so popular that she should be an A. I think B is a good spot.
Fine with B. I love her in Cabal, but yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Like, she's sweet. I think Pat was playing someone in a video YouTube I saw, and his opponent brought
As a
hell
web
out of
warrior?
it. Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, she was excellent as a web warrior.
Yep.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing her as a defender, since she's generating that 2-power return and being able to let her use Hex in addition to her souls. All right, so what about Proxima? I have her ranked a little bit lower than her counterpart. Does she deserve to move up?
I like her where she is. I think she's really good. I've played her in the TTS League, in fact, on her own merits without taking Corvus, and she was a perfectly good 3. She's tough and she's fast, and those are 2 useful attributes to have, right? So she is good at getting to secures and fighting over them. She's good at running around with extracts. I think she's solid, but at the same time, she's probably not got the power suite that makes her versatile enough to be any higher than a B.
I agree.
Cool. And then what about Gamora, the probably the best definition of a glass cannon we have in this game so far? Does that her potential damage output outweigh her negative defensive stats?
Sploosh, you've played her more than
So I love Gamora. She's one of my pets characters. I painted her nice, and whenever I paint a character, it's because they get my attention. I think she might need to be a C, but I think if someone's willing to put the energy into her with aim lackeys and Cabal or whatever, she's good. It's just very there's a lot of it's what opponent you're playing against. For example, she probably wants to be playing against things that are doing range 2 attacks. She doesn't really want to get hit by even a range 3. She's super squishy. She needs to be playing with a team that wants to murder things, and you have to be doing it tactically. So anyway, I want her to be a B or even higher, but she's not. She's a situational character that does what she does really well. Like you said, a glass cannon. She's fun to play, but even seeing her next to Dwarf, you probably wouldn't want to run her into Dwarf, because even when Dwarf flips, he's 8 with -1 damage. He's probably gonna live, and then he's gonna beat her up, throw her into something. It's gonna be bloody afterwards, So she needs to be, and actually, I remember talking about this. She needs to attack up, so she needs to be killing 4 or 5 costers to be paying for herself. And I've had my Gamora die to Okoye. So it's see what I'm saying? She can be killed by a 2-coster reliably almost. However, she also can kill things bigger than her. She's like a giant hunter. And if someone's playing a bunch of 2-costers, she's not going to kill up, right?
Yeah, so she's great for hunting down the Modoks and Thors of the world, but man, Hawkeye across the board can drop her in 1 round of shooting.
Exactly.
All right, so we will drop her down to C then. And you talked about it a little bit. Black Dwarf, one of the tankiest characters we have in the game, sitting at 4 threat. Does that keep him at B in what he is able to bring to the table with a size 4 threat or throw?
So I'm going to give a slightly different approach on Black Dwarf, because I think when I look at him on paper, I think he's really solid. But who plays him? I don't think I've seen anyone play him.
I played against him once, and he was real sad.
Right?
I did a Cosmic Invigorate Shuri, and I hit him 3 times, and I literally had him touching board edge.
Yeah, it's awful. He's so vulnerable to control. I think he seems fine to me, but I couldn't say that he is a popular choice outside of affiliation, because I don't even include him in my Black Order rosters, let alone outside of them.
I think he's acceptable in a Corvus Proxima Dwarf list, and then other stuff. So you're playing Black Order, but you're not playing Thanos. He's okay. That's the only time I see him. I actually think there's a chance he could be okay also in Defenders, but then we talked about Vision's so cool and easy to play that it's what's the point? You know?
Cool. So we'll drop him down to C. Does he need to go all the way down to D then, if you guys are even hesitant to put him into the Black Order?
It's interesting, right? I feel like he doesn't deserve to be down there, but maybe he does. I can't think of many other characters that deserve to be at D more than he does.
It feels so wrong, right? Because
Yeah,
he is
I don't
horrifying.
like it.
Like if you don't play Shuri or you don't have a lot of ways to move him, he is kind of super obnoxious. And I don't think I've ever killed him. I've played against him a few times. He like never dies. The guy is ridiculous with his health. Because he never feels like the thing you should be killing first. And it always feels better to kind of like move him away somewhere and then deal with the other stuff. But maybe that's the problem, is you can just move him away. He's got that same issue that maybe Venom would have if you don't use Lethal Protector.
Yeah.
Well, in his defense on mobility, he does have Thanos, who's able to cosmic port him a little bit. He has the Mothership tactic card, which can literally just be bamfing him in wherever you have another character and letting him get off 2 attacks. But any character with a short move is going to suffer there.
There was a pretty cool roster going around for a while with drop-off rocket boots, where Black Dwarf dropped off Modok. And I thought that was pretty fun. And I tried it a couple of times, and if you don't expect Modok to be dropped off, then it's real sad for you. As Modok just reliably kills pretty much anyone with 3 attacks on turn 1.
Yep.
But that's pretty corner case.
I
think he's okay, but you could argue for D.
Sploosh, keep him at C or drop him all the way down?
I'd say D, sure.
All right,
someone's got to be a D.
And speaking of other characters that I personally even want to move down myself right now, Ebony Maw. Where then does he get pushed? All the way down?
All the way down.
All
I think
the way
the problem
down.
with Ebony Maw is his 5 threat cost. It's hard to justify. He doesn't generate enough power to be able to both do damage and keep himself alive with his reactive power. And his Shush tactic card seems great, but it also costs power. And he just can't use his whole character card. And all of the other 5 threats can.
Yeah. Right. Isn't his throw cost 3? Why does his throw not cost 2?
Because it's a size 4 throw at long range.
Is it 4? I thought it was 3.
Nah, he's got a size 4.
It's a 4? Okay.
It's a range 3 pickup. So it's basically Modok, but a size higher.
So that's why he's so costly. He's just not Modok is the problem.
Yeah, I want to try him out in Avengers because I think he would do really well there, maybe Cabal. But it's one of those like, well, if I'm playing a 5-threat character in Avengers, why am I not bringing Thor? If I'm playing a 5-threat character in Cabal, why am I not just bringing Modok? So
he has the advance thing, doesn't he? That's the one I was thinking of. He attacks and when he hits you, he can advance you. I think
on a wild, I think, yeah. All right,
so Ebony Maw was the character I was super looking forward to also, and I'm a little disappointed that he is this way. But
all right.
By the way, how does he compare to Doctor Strange, right? They're both 5 threats. They both have a 5 damage attack that moves you. Strange's is more reliable. They both got a perfectly fine spender, and then he spends 2 power to boost his own defense. Strange spends 2 power to boost everyone's defense, and has a heal, and is a leader.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right. I think he was overtuned in testing. It just screams like he was probably super good, and then something happened.
Well, he does come in with naturally generating 3 power a turn, which is pretty helpful.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And he's got a throw, so he has some rules that compare well to Strange as well.
Yeah.
If they gave him like the Soul Gem, maybe he had a different situation. But
yeah, some other way to gain power other than the mind or space. All right, so then at the B tier, currently we only have 2 more 3-threat characters to cover. The first being Drax.
I think Drax is fine as a B. I could see an argument for C. I think he is one of the toughest 3-pointers. He's got some ways to move people around. He plays a helpful role. Having said that, I'm never taking him outside of Guardians, so maybe he should just be a C.
Yeah, or the like Wakanda Wave if you're big on that. I mean, apparently Wakanda Wave went 8-0 in season 2, so somebody was having good times with that, So I mean, he's kind of like a role player in a very, very particular list, and that's it.
And that's what the C tier is kind of defined as. So we will throw him down there. And then we have Agent Black Widow. This is one that I have not actually played with myself yet, but I've seen her be effective. What do you guys think about her?
I think her turn-by-turn play normally is a little bit underwhelming. I think her defensive ability stealth is fine. Parting shot is worse than it looks because of the reality of you're usually on secure objectives, and then moving off them to stay alive kind of defeats the point of staying alive.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I like about her is how well her pistol attacks combo with damage increases. Any way that you can get a recurring damage increase that lasts the whole round. And I think the best two are Blind Obsession and Doom Prophecy. And then you can double combo those with all you've got, and then she can do really ridiculous things. So I like her combo potential, but I personally would only include her in teams right now where I'm specifically doing that potential, unless, of course, I'm playing Avengers and I just want another 3-cost character affiliated option.
But you can't take her with the 2 cost, and the 2 cost is so good that she almost is beat out by her own self.
Yeah, it's tough competition for sure.
Yep. So dropping her down to C probably.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would argue D, but there is that crowd out there that would want to do the fun, crazy combos, and I could respect that.
I mean, you've got to try it, right? Doom Prophecy with her is so much fun when she just puts out 4 8-dice attacks. It's really strong.
Yeah, it's crazy. And if you do it in Wakanda, she gets the 1 reroll power every attack.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically add a die.
Pretty much. All right. So that moves us, and we've added quite a few down to the C tier. Looking at Winter Soldier, and again, a character that added so much when he first came into the game, but now has kind of been left behind. Where do you guys think he needs to be?
I think C is fine for him. I think he is a character that he's got a perfectly fine set of abilities that are nothing to write home about. But the fact that you can just use him as an affiliated slot is helpful for every team, so he shouldn't be a D. I think C is okay.
I think that the swarm lists are incredibly under-tested, and maybe it's just because no one's interested in playing it. I don't know. I know Sooner has been playing around with spamming Guardians lit, and so his ability to get free attacks when something gets dazed is really cute. His range 5 is cool. And I actually think his gun could be good in the Spider Foes. But that all that being said, he's still like, that's the only reason I'd give him a C and not a D, is because there is still like some hope for him, and he fills some niches, you know. So yeah.
All right. What about our Man of Metal, or I guess just the being of metal, Ultron? Does he get bumped up or stay where he's at with the Cabal?
Apparently he's a part of a top 10 character champion list, so maybe he's good. I don't like him. What do you think,
I
Pat?
think he's a solid role player in Cabal. I think he's that character that you take in your Cabal teams and you're not happy about taking him, but he makes the whole team work. He's the cheapest Cabal character with a good ranged attack. He's a good option for drop-off. His unique card is uniquely powerful, even though I'm not sure how often I'd take it. It's a pretty cool effect. So yeah, I include him in my rosters, and I'm happy enough with him. But I do think that you're taking him because of the synergies you want. He's like, on his own merits, he's nothing special. He's quite similar to Star-Lord in terms of output and defense. And he costs 1 threat more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and so and one of the things I really like is you are fine with him sitting at C, but you are also currently
Still
world
taking my
champion
roster.
and taking him in your roster. So to anybody who's like, oh man, but I play this character, like all of these characters at the end of the day, they have the role, they are all good, but some are just more universally being able to be played. Leadership's, again, a little bit different and stuff. So take everything we say with a grain of salt and know that all of these characters can put out work.
Yeah, like C's description is C's playing their own affiliation. And the fun of this game is we get to play different affiliations. Doesn't mean they have to be like the super character. They're just like, I just realized, like, I know we put Green Goblin at C, and that's fine. Like, I think Green Goblin sort of stole a little bit of the thunder from Ultron, because now there's 2 size 3 flying characters. So Ultron's like, come on, man, that was my thing, you know. But you know, and but yeah, that was a cool and unique aspect. And if you're looking for a size 3 flying character, there it is. You can choose between 2 now, and that's just his thing. So.
All right. Well, with that, we have the other Cabal member down here in the C tier, in Crossbones. Is he one that you guys want to bump down to D, or has Merzane and the Cult of Crossbones persuaded you that he deserves at least the C tier?
I'd put him at D, man.
Really? Aww.
Yeah. Okay,
like
so I get it. Like, if you read my article of Jacob interview from season 1, I was defending Crossbones. But, like, I also couldn't explain to him why I would play him. And that was the problem. Like, I'm going to play Zemo. I'm not going to play Crossbones. And then, like, when does he get played? Back when the game first started, I had limited options. But now I've got, like, all these cool guys in the A and the B. And I'm really happy with Red Skull and Modok and Zemo, which are all, like, sitting pretty up there. So what Cabal doesn't need him, so then he needs to fit somewhere else. Maybe in the Swarm list, I think to make a Swarm list work, your characters need to be durable. So Drax and maybe Crossbones, maybe even Iron Man, they could fill that role of, like, I'm just playing a ton of cheap characters that if you... Oh, and I'm just going to skip a tiny bit, but, like, you see Groot over there. Groot's the same way. Like, if you don't one-shot Groot, he's full health again. So... but it's a very unexplored archetype, and maybe someone out there wants to be the guy who makes it all work for us. But as of now, I don't see Crossbones anywhere, and I don't really have a reason or excuse to play him. And he's got, like, these weaknesses that until we can, like, make, like, when my opponent is putting their list together in front of me with hidden information, so I have no idea if he's a good choice or not until after they've selected their characters. If we had to choose one character at a time, which I wish was a rule in this game, then maybe Crossbones is like my ace in the hole. We're like, aha, he didn't bring Captain Marvel. Let's do this. Bam, slam him on the table. You know? But currently, that's not the way we play this game. So I can't risk bringing a character with 2 energy defense against who the heck knows what. Maybe Vision, who wants to kill me. Also, 2 psychic defense, I think, too.
I don't know. I'm not as low on him as you are. I think he's okay, but I think he's probably a D for the same reason I said Black Dwarf was. He's easily controlled. He's not very popular. Yeah, you sometimes... Like, I consider him as, if I'm playing Cabal, I will sometimes take him as a role player. So I won't even always include him in his affiliation. In the TTS League, I did take him in the last week of the Swiss, and he played... So that was that. So yeah, he probably is a D.
All right. Well, if anybody is throwing torches and pitchforks, it'll be Merzane and his cult that he has formed. All right.
Yeah,
now,
he
what
does
about...
have 2 psychic as well. His defenses is 4-2-2.
Yeah, but he's got that. Is it Endure to Pain?
Inert or something.
Yeah, which is a very strong rule. It's pretty good.
Very powerful. All right. And finally, at the C tier, we have Hulk, who... I think I put him in here because he does see play because he fits a very specific role that only Hulk kind of fills, and I don't think he deserves to go all the way down to D. What about you guys?
I think that's fair. I think he's very points inefficient. He's not worth his threat level, but Gamma Launch is unique, and he does unique and powerful things, even if they're not efficient things.
Yeah, he definitely wants to be at the lower point cost totals, I think. So the odds of him getting killed are lower since the offensive output of your opponent is lower. I think there's a tiny hope for him in Defenders, since you can change the way he attacks, and he might have that extra 1 power to spend.
Yep, and then having Wong and Doctor Strange as additional ways to continuously heal him, I'm sure will help as well.
Also, a lot of people really like No Matter the Cost with him, and you know that is a new addition to the game that is mostly unexplored at this time. So I think he fits a very niche area that keeps him out of D. and with a little bit of potential to prove himself to be there.
All right. And so then we have the two characters that I started out in D, the first of whom is Iron Man, who is actually like one of my favorite characters in the comics, in the movies, just unfortunately not in the game. And I want to know if you guys share my opinion.
I don't. I think Iron Man's actually fine. I like him in Cabal. I like him in Avengers. I quite like him in Asgard and Black Order. I actually think he's one of the better 3-cost options for Black Order. The main thing is he's tough. Like, he's very tough for 3 cost, right? He's up there with Drax in the sense that he's got a few less hit points, but he's got much better defensive stats at 4-3-3. And he's got a versatile suite of powers. He's incredibly good at spending power. And if he can get rolling, then he actually just does very good damage, where he can basically feel like the best parts of Drax and Shuri together, where he's very tough, sitting on a point and just pushing people with every attack. He's rolling 6 dice and actually doing full damage and a push. And that's kind of the best case for him, and you don't always get there. But the reason I think he goes above D for sure is because in Black Order with Thanos, or in Avengers with Thanos, you can start giving him extra damage dice, which turns into power with Repulsor Blast, which then lets him continue to fuel extra dice with his own abilities with Friday AI, and he starts to be quite strong.
Yeah, okay. I've seen him in the Avengers Thanos list, and it gives me hope for him. I don't know about all the other stuff with him in Cabal or anything, but I did mention, like, Modok can take a hit, right? And that's a huge part of this game. Like, if you can just take a hit, survive at 1, that's fine, and then do your thing, right? And he's great at that. He's a nice, cheap Avenger for Thanos to hang out with in Avengers.
Yeah. Okay. Iron Man is a great character to go last on your team if you don't have a specific control plan in mind, because he can sit there and get beaten up and then try to push people off. And, okay, that's not awesome, but often his worst case scenario is not that bad.
Okay. And he flies. You know, that's not nothing.
And he's the cheapest flyer, right, for drop off?
Yeah.
Same as Star-Lord, right?
Yeah.
I think those are the only
Star-Lord.
2-3 threat flyers, though.
Yep.
Cool. In that case, Iron Man bumping up to C, not higher than that, though. What about Groot?
I think Groot's fine. He's all right.
I played against a Guardian spam list in my first round of the tournament. So, first of all, the guy made it that far. I think he went 4-2. So, in a pretty competitive league and he had Groot. And that was kind of eye-opening for me. And I know, like I said earlier, Sooner has been testing that list for a long while now. And I know he likes Groot in that list. So, you know, for that situation and that niche, he's cool with Rocket in affiliation, which kind of fits a C tier as well. I don't know because like Rocket and Groot have that cool car where they can just blow up everybody, you know, and that's fun to play.
Yeah, I think the cards definitely help push him up because he's, like you said, he's got 2 cards that are both quite powerful. So yeah, I think he deserves to be above D for that reason.
Okay, we will push him into C. I can definitely see him being a decent part of the Guardians lists. I know I personally at least saw a lot of people drop him as soon as Drax came out as somebody who could push out to a little bit more consistent damage. But all right, so this is what we have for a revised tier list from people who play the game at a higher level than myself. Again, thank you guys for joining me on this rather long expedition, moving through all of the characters. I loved getting your guys' insights. I'm sure everybody else will enjoy it as well because you are just kind of those top tier players, and getting to hear those kind of insights can help just us normies see the game in a completely different light. So thank you guys for sharing with us all your secrets and strategies. And both of you are also content creators for Marvel Crisis Protocol. Pat, you've been doing it almost since day one, I feel like, with Across the Bifrost. Tell us a little bit about that. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm co-host for Across the Bifrost podcast. Like you said, we've been going since around about launch of Marvel Crisis Protocol. You can find us on Patreon, Across the Bifrost, and then we're also available on all of the popular podcast networks, right, including Spotify, iTunes, all the rest. So please do check us out.
Absolutely, cannot recommend their stuff enough. Love their insights. And then Sploosh, on the other side of things, you guys are like brand new to some of the content creation. Tell us a little bit about what you and a couple other guys have been working on.
Yeah, Jacob and Dizzard. Dizzard being the kind of the guy who put all this league together, and Jacob, well known for his Xavier protocols. They approached me to like do a podcast, and I'm happy to be with those guys because, you know, Jacob has sort of set this expectation where he's this guy who teaches you the interesting little facts you might not know, help you with the math that maybe we don't understand so easily, and just up your game a little bit. And that's kind of the goal of our podcast, which is called the Danger Room Podcast. We have a Facebook page, the Danger Room Podcast, and then that is also something you can search now. I think we're officially on iTunes now, which is great. We put out our first episode this week, and we hope to put out a bunch more.
Awesome, and I will have links to both of your guys' pages and content down below. Definitely go check them out. I'm excited to see what Danger Room does, and Across the Bifrost has been great. They have a fantastic song, also worth listening to on loop. So thank you guys again for joining me, and I don't know what else to say. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Awesome.
Bye.
If you have made it all the way to the end here, please let me know if there were any surprises made by my guests, and who would you have placed differently down in the comments. As a reminder, there are plenty of links down in the description, both to Pat's and Sploosh's different podcasts, as well as a link to the Guild's Patreon. If you have enjoyed the content put out thus far and would like to further support the channel, I would highly appreciate it. As well as always, I've got the link to the Facebook page as well as my email down below. That way, if you have any questions about game or otherwise, I'm happy to answer to the best of my ability. And as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.